Welcome to Outdoors with John. Today we are here at Mount Misery in Pachaug State Forest. Come along and check out the final edition of the Pachaug trip with me today. Today we are doing our finale of the Pachaug series. This is our 6th episode here. We're starting in the center of the park here at Pachaug State Forest. And Pachaug State Forest was actually built by the Civilian Conservation Corps from 1933 to 1942, which was established by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. This statue was erected in September of 2019 to honor the Civilian Conservation Corps workers who built this park circa 1933. From the center of the park and the Mount Misery Broad Brook picnic area, we have a short distance of road walking. This road is dirt and has fields and picnic areas on either side. There's actually a campground here in Pachaug, but requires reservations in advance. It's car camping. This section of Pachaug Forest is called the Chapman area. Pachaug State Forest actually has a sanctioned enduro route for ATVs and motorcycles to ride on. So you will hear some motorcycles or ATVs from time to time. About a half a mile into our hike, we pass the turnoff for Mount Misery Campground. Immediately passing the campground, the trail branches off on its own here. Follow the signs for MM Overlook, Mount Misery Overlook. This portion of the Pachaug Trail that goes to the Mount Misery Overlook is one of the most popular trails in Pachaug State Forest, primarily because there's a view at the top.
They say the name Mount Misery comes from the lousy farming conditions English colonists found when they settled Valentine, Connecticut in the early 1700s. The 441-foot tall rise Pachaug State Forest at the eastern end of the state, just over the border from Rhode Island, is recommended as a pleasant place for viewing fall foliage.
This section of the trail was recently reopened according to the trail notice I read. Looking back on one of the foothills we climbed just before we get to the summit here, Mount Misery, that summit over there is about 390 feet, but if we continue on the trail, we're going to get to about 440 feet and the summit of Mount Misery. The trail has turned fairly steep here as we're approaching the summit of Mount Misery. Okay, we've arrived at the summit of Mount Misery right here, 440 feet. I would say there's probably 180 degrees worth of views, but this is probably the prize over here. We have an overlook, a nice rock overlook here to enjoy the view of the valley below. Here in the summit of Mount Misery, we see some spikes in the rocks here. I see two of them. My guess is that these two spikes were used to hold some kind of a tower up. Here we have another stake in the ground. It's probably safe to say that this rock here that I'm standing on is the summit of Mount Misery at 440 feet. I didn't mention earlier, but the Pachaug and the Nehantic Trail have been sharing the same path today. So both trails go over Mount Misery from about where we started to the junction that's just ahead. There is a second view from Mount Misery. This is looking southwest here. Looking at these trees, it's hard to tell what's going on here, but you have trees from both sides of the trail reaching over to the center, almost forming a canopy. The trail is a little bit braided here, so trying to keep an eye on where the trail actually goes. Here's where you could go wrong. I was following the rocks down, and I went down to the left, which was pretty steep. And over here I saw some orange tape but there is a blue marker over there. So stay to your right. Keep an eye out for the blazes. Okay, so here's what it says. Forest product harvest. The Fire Tower Road area of Pachaug State Forest was affected by 3 successive years of defoliation by gypsy moth caterpillar. Defoliation in 2015-2016 coincided with drought conditions, which resulted in significant oak mortality. Early summer 2017, DEEP Forestry proposed a forest product harvest to salvage trees recently killed by gypsy moth and improve public safety in a heavily used recreation area. If you were looking for the shortest, quickest way up to Mount Misery, coming in from this side is definitely shorter than the other direction. After heading down into a bit of a gully, the Pachaug and Nahantic Trail take a right on what looks to be a cart path.
When English colonists arrived, the forest was tribal land of the Narragansett, Pequot, and Mohegan peoples. The name Pachaug of the forest and the Pachaug River that winds through it is said to come from a Native American term meaning bend or turn in the river.
So I've been seeing a lot of scat on the trail here. This doesn't look like horse scat. Oh, it could be bear scat. I know there are bears in this area. But anyways, that's fairly fresh. Hiking. We are at the junction of the Pachaug Trail, which goes left to right, and the Nahantic Trail, which is going to continue straight up this way towards Hopeville Pond. I'll put a link in the video here to the Nahantic series for you to check out. There's a bit of a swamp behind this earthen berm here. This berm was definitely man-made. You can see the rocks. And it's right here at the junction of the two trails. We're going to hike up the Nahantic just a little bit to see if we can see where the dam lets out. As you can see here, there is a earthen berm here, or a dam site. There's a little outlet here. Not a big one, but a little outlet here in a brook that heads south from here. If I had to guess, this earthen berm or dam was built by the CCC when they established the park. Okay, we are standing on top of the berm and looking at the backside of the berm. So it's mostly dry here, but it's identified as a swampy area on the old topographical map. We've come to the intersection of the Enduro Trail. Red arrows indicate the Enduro Trail. So you may find motorcycles out here, and you can see that the paths are a little bit rockier and sandier. These are set aside specifically for Enduro riders.
As English settlers encroached on the indigenous land, disputes arose that eventually sparked an uprising in 1675. Wampanoag, Nipmuc, Pocmuc, and Narragansett tribes hoped to drive the English out. They were led by Wampanoag Sachem Metacom, also known as Metacomet or King Philip, the name given to him by the English. He was the son of Massasoit, the Wampanoag leader who had supported the Plymouth Pilgrims when they first arrived. King Philip's War, as the English called it, lasted 14 months, with devastating fights, raids on settlements, and destruction of crops. Members of the Mohegan, Pequot, and Nauset tribes were sided with the English. Fighting ended in August of 1676, when Metacom was cornered and killed at Mount Hope in Rhode Island. The English colonists captured his wife and a 9-year-old son and sold them into slavery in the West Indies.
We're about 4 miles into the hike and almost at Route 138. In fact, we can hear it off in the distance, but we just did a circuitous route around this swampy area, and on the west end is a retaining dam with a small pond of water you can see here. It's just off the trail. But I thought I'd walk out here and give you an idea of just how big the swamp itself was. Straight out, but it almost goes as far to the left as it does straight out, and forming kind of a T shape here. That wraps up our Pachaug series. Hope you enjoyed the series on the Pachaug Trail, and we'll see you out there on the next trail.